Welcome, everyone. We are so thrilled you're here with us today for this deep dive. Whether you're commuting or, just hanging out at home, we are really glad you're joining the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here, guys. We got a really great one today.
We really do. So today's mission is all about this one dynamic Polish city called Opole. It's got a population of about 126,000 people.
Right, in southwestern Poland.
Exactly. And we're working from this massive stack of sources. We're talking tourism portals, museum websites, urban planning docs, and historical guides. And our goal today is to unpack how this single city is basically a masterclass in cultural preservation.
It really is. It's fascinating.
Because they blend, Italian architecture, this incredibly deep-rooted musical heritage, and perfectly preserved rural history all into one place.
Yeah, and they do it in a way that actually works. It doesn't feel disjointed.
Right. And, I was trying to describe Opole to someone earlier, and the best analogy I could come up with is that it's like a best-kept secret indie band.
Oh, I like that. How so?
Well, those bands that you think are obscure, but then you realize they actually have this massive, incredibly diverse back catalog of hits.
Right, yeah, they've secretly been producing genius work for decades.
Exactly. Opole is exactly like that. You can be standing in a hyper-modern recording studio 1 minute and then literally just take a short walk and you're in an 18th century village.
It's a city of wild contrasts. And normally, cities fall into one of two traps, right?
Which are?
Well, either they bulldoze all their history to modernize and just become this, concrete grid, or they go the other way and trap themselves in amber.
Oh, like those towns that feel like sterile open-air museums where no one actually lives?
Exactly. They become tourist sets. But Opole rejects both of those extremes. Based on the sources, they treat their history as raw material, something to be actively used by the people who live there today.
Yeah, it's like a giant cultural mixing board. And if we're looking at the channels in that mixing board, the loudest track by far is the music.
Oh, without a doubt. It's the beating heart of the city.
Right. So for those who don't know, Opole is officially the capital of Polish song.
Which is a pretty heavy title to carry.
It is. And they earn it. Since 1963, they've hosted the National Festival of Polish Song at the Millennium Amphitheatre.
60-plus years of continuous cultural momentum. That's rare.
Yeah, but here's the thing that really jumped out at me from the museum websites. It's not just that they have this festival, it's how they archive it. The Polish Song Museum is built right inside the amphitheater.
Yeah, right into the structure itself.
And it does not operate like a normal museum. I think of a music archive as, dusty sheet music behind velvet ropes.
Yeah, exactly. The do not touch vibe.
Right. But this place is basically a gamified musical amusement park. It's totally immersive.
They give you these audio guides, right?
Yeah, you wander around with audio guides. There are massive multimedia libraries, film screenings, and a sprawling costume wardrobe.
The actual stage outfits from the festival performers over the decades.
Yes, but the absolute best part, the standout feature for me, is the sound booths.
Oh, the recording booths are brilliant.
They really are. Visitors can literally step into a professional-grade sound booth, sing a classic Polish song, and then email the recording to themselves or their friends.
That completely flips the traditional museum model on its head.
It does, and I have to ask you, as someone who looks at how cities curate their identities, is this gamified, interactive thing the secret to making history actually stick with younger generations?
Absolutely. Think about the psychology of it. You aren't just staring at history, you are physically participating in it.
Right, you're literally adding your own voice to the exhibit.
Exactly. You are standing in the exact physical space where these musical legends have performed since '63. And by letting you record your own voice, history transforms from this passive artifact into a living personal experience.
It reinforces the idea that culture is a verb, right? Something you do.
Yes, not just something you look at.
And that active culture totally spills out of the museum, too. The sources highlight this place called University Hill or St. Adalbert's Hill.
Right, which is just seamlessly integrated into the city grid.
Yeah, it's this lush green area, and it's filled with these dynamic sculptures of famous artists, like Agnieszka Osieka and Jesse Niemann.
Oh, Niemann, he was huge.
Yeah. The guides talk about how he used to just electrify audiences with his song, Strange is This World.
A total anthem.
And it's cool because the music doesn't just stop when you leave the amphitheater. But this brings us to this really wild pivot in the city's identity.
The architecture.
Yes. Because the music is fiercely, proudly Polish, But the streets these musicians are walking on, well, a lot of them look straight out of Italy.
It is quite the architectural flex.
It's wild. So looking at the tourism routes, if you take the green route from the main railway station, you hit the post office.
Designed by Albrecht, right?
Right. And it is a deliberate, obvious replica of the Palazzo Pitti in Florence.
Yeah, though I think they added a couple of wings.
True, but the rusticated stone, the imposing facade, it's pure Italian Renaissance.
Yeah.
And then you get to the market square.
The town hall?
Yes. This massive neo-Renaissance town hall that was modeled directly after another Florentine landmark, the Palazzo Vecchio. And I gotta push back on this a little bit.
Go for it.
If I go to a historic Polish city, I expect Polish architecture. Why go out of your way to just copy Florence's homework? Doesn't that feel a little bit like a cheap imitation?
I see why you'd say that, especially through a modern lens. But historically, architectural replication like that wasn't seen as cheap imitation. It was a profound form of civic branding.
Really? How so?
Well, think about what Florence represented during the Renaissance. It was the absolute epicenter of art, commerce, sophisticated humanism. By adopting that specific visual language, Opole was projecting a highly cosmopolitan identity.
Ah, so they were sending a message.
Exactly. They were saying, we aren't some isolated provincial town. We are an elevated, sophisticated crossroads of European culture.
Okay, that makes sense. You build the Palazzo Pitti to instantly communicate wealth and stability.
All right, you're downloading the operating system of the Renaissance, essentially.
Yeah. Okay, but the timeline makes this even more fascinating because the historical guides note that the market square, including that Florentine-inspired town hall, was just flattened by bombings during World War II.
Catastrophically damaged, yeah.
Yet, after 1945, they undertook this incredibly meticulous effort to rebuild the square exactly as it was. And just looking at this objectively, why dedicate so many resources to rebuilding a neo-Renaissance town hall brick by brick, especially when so much post-war rebuilding was just utilitarian concrete?
Because of psychological continuity.
Yeah.
When a city goes through profound trauma, the immediate instinct is to anchor the surviving population to something deeply recognizable.
So it's about morale.
Yes, and resilience. Rebuilding that specific grand aesthetic was a way to reject the erasure brought by the war and restore their identity as that cosmopolitan crossroads.
Wow. And they balanced that grand, imported Italian look with some very local medieval lore, too.
You're talking about the PS Tower.
Oh, absolutely. You can't talk about Opole without the PS Tower on Passaic Island. It's a 35-meter-tall brick tower.
The only surviving piece of the early medieval ducal castle.
Right. And the legend attached to it is just the best. So, the courtyard is supposedly haunted by the ghost of Duchess Ofka, also known as Euphemia.
The rebellious duchess.
Yes. She supposedly broke off her arranged engagement to Duke John II the Good by hurling her engagement ring from the dungeon of the tower all the way down to the courtyard floor.
Which is, frankly, the ultimate Drenic breakup move.
Truly iconic. But, we're talking about Passaic Island and these massive stone palazzos, and it brings up a really glaring vulnerability.
The water.
Yeah. Opole is situated right on the River Oder, which is great for trade, but building heavy architecture on a floodplain seems like a massive risk.
It's the central paradox of river cities, right? The river is the lifeblood, but it's also the biggest existential threat.
Like a beautifully temperamental roommate.
Exactly. They can be incredibly charming, but they might also destroy all your stuff.
Right, and Opole experienced that destruction brutally during the 1997 flood.
Yes. The sources call it the greatest disaster in the city's 1,000-year history.
It was devastating, but what struck me is how they chose to memorialize it. You'd expect some brutalist concrete monument to the tragedy.
Right, something heavy and imposing.
Instead, if you go to the Garden of Radio Opole, there's this life-size bronze statue of the Lady of Pasieka.
Oh, yeah.
And she's this delicate figure holding a dainty parasol. Local legend says she heroically saved residents during the flood.
It's a fascinating choice, psychologically. When a community faces a natural force totally out of their control, the trauma is immense. By erecting this graceful, protective figure with something as fragile as a parasol.
It softens the memory.
Exactly. It reclaims a sense of psychological control over the narrative. It's how they cope with the vulnerability of living on the water.
And they didn't just reclaim it symbolically either, they did it structurally.
You mean the Munoka Canal?
Yes. So this canal separates the city center from Pasieka Island. Historically, it was this raw industrial mill run.
Grueling labor, heavy industry, not a pretty place.
But today, They've engineered this 1.3-kilometer stretch into what they call the Opole Venice.
It's a masterclass in urban planning. Usually, cities turn their backs on the water after a flood. They build huge, ugly barricades. Opole turned toward the water.
They totally embraced it. There are boulevards, rock gardens, this beautiful wooden viewing pier, and at night, they illuminate these old tenements along the canal so they reflect perfectly on the dark water.
Tenements that probably housed those exact mill workers centuries ago.
Right. It's insanely romantic now. You cross the Yellow Bridge or Castle Bridge into the Old Town, or take the green routes down to Bolko Island.
Which is where the Opole Zoo is.
Yeah, with gorilla pens and Poland's only Californian sea lions.
It's incredible. They took an industrial liability, a space defined by environmental threat, and turned it into the ultimate scenic asset. They mastered the art of living with the river.
Okay, so we've seen the high-tech music museum, the Florentine palazzos, the Venice-style canals, but to really get Opole, the sources say we have to escape the concrete entirely.
Absolutely. We have to look at the rural history, because while all this grand building was happening, the everyday people of Opole Silesia were developing their own distinct culture.
And the city preserves this agrarian history just as rigorously as the royal stuff.
Right, at the Opole Village Museum in Birkowice.
Which is, what, like a 26-minute drive from the Zamkoe Moon Hotel?
Yeah, very accessible from the city. But it's not some tiny token exhibit, it's 10 hectares.
Huge. 50 fully preserved wooden buildings from the 18th to the 20th centuries.
The granular detail is amazing. They even whitewash the trunks of the fruit trees in the orchards every spring.
I saw that. It's this traditional method to deter pests and reflect sunlight. And there's a historic wooden church, a traditional mill, and this one grocery store that just completely messes with your sense of time.
Oh, the grocery store is a perfect temporal mashup.
It really is. You walk in and there are these imported goods on the shelves that an 18th century rural worker could never afford. But sitting right on the wooden counter is this massive heavy scale from the communist era.
Right, so you have radically different economic systems sharing the exact same physical space.
But the thing that really challenged me was reading about the interiors of these wooden huts.
The comfort level.
Yes. Modern tourists are consistently shocked by how cozy they are. They have beautifully carved furniture, handmade tablecloths, and these highly decorative bed covers.
It throws people off.
It completely threw me off. I realized I have this total bias. When we think of historical rural life, we just default to misery, you know? Barren dirt floors and freezing winters.
We do. There's a term for it. Temporal chauvinism.
Temporal chauvinism.
Yeah, it's this arrogant assumption that because we have Wi-Fi and a memory foam mattresses, our baseline quality of life must inherently be superior, and everyone in the past was just suffering constantly.
Wow, yes. That's exactly it. Does looking at history through the lens of modern luxury just make us blind to how comfortable people actually were?
I think so. And the Village Museum dismantles that bias perfectly. It forces you to confront the dignity and the sophisticated craftsmanship of everyday rural life.
But it's wild to me how they balance this. On one hand, you have the meticulous preservation of whitewashing apple trees, and on the other hand, you have the Kaczynowski Theater.
Which has been hosting the Polish Classics confrontation since 1975.
Exactly. And Opole was the literal incubator for Jerzy Grotowski. He ran the 13 Rows Laboratory Theater there until 1965.
A giant of the avant-garde theater movement?
Right, he basically reformed global avant-garde theater. So how does a city foster these radically experimental, rule-breaking artists while fiercely protecting 18th century agrarian traditions? It feels like a cultural identity crisis.
It's not a crisis at all, actually. It's a comprehensive understanding of value. Opole curates the full spectrum of the Polish experience.
The full spectrum.
Yeah. Most cities only save the extremes, the palaces of the rich or the sites of tragedies. Opole treats the quiet dignity of a blacksmith with the exact same reverence as Grotowski's avant-garde legacy or the Renaissance town hall.
The handcrafted bed cover is protected just as fiercely as the pop star's sequined costume.
Exactly. They realize that a city's identity isn't just one neat narrative. It's the friction between all these overlapping realities.
That the friction is the point. I love that. So what does this all mean for you, our listener? When we zoom out, the sheer density of contrasts in Opole is just breathtaking.
It's a dense itinerary.
Imagine this for a Tuesday. You start your morning recording your own pop vocals in a high-tech booth. By lunch, you're standing in front of architecture modeled after Renaissance Florence. In the afternoon, you're walking through the quiet orchards of a preserved 18th century village. And you end your night strolling along an illuminated Venice-style canal.
A canal that used to be a grueling industrial mill run.